Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to tonight's live Path to Profit live webinar workshop for people in the Investor Agent program, the rental program. Some of you are in the flipping program. I don't think we have any current students currently in the property management program. We did last year. Last time we launched that was last year, and we generally just do these like what we did last night, guys. That generally only happens about once a year per program. It's just the fact that we don't have the capacity to do it like all the time. And the reality is we don't want you to do it all the time either. I mean, it's you know, a lot of you will have you in just 2 programs, but very rarely will we have you in 3 programs at the same time. Most people are in 1, but depending on your circumstances, many of you are in 2 programs at the same time. Regardless, welcome aboard, and welcome aboard to everyone literally coast to coast, California to Maine, and Montreal to Miami, and everywhere in between. And also especially to all the new folks. So if you're relatively new to this, you'll notice that you're by default in muted mode, and that is by design because with so many people on, we can't have everybody live audio at the same time, obviously. But we will unmute you from time to time. We've done it before, not a lot, but sometimes the need calls for it. For the most part, though, you just type your questions into the question box to the right, okay? And what I do is I always scan that first to look for current questions before I go into the content. Now tonight, it looks like we're current on questions. I'm going to go over a question from Julio that he raised 2 weeks ago, but we already had a guest speaker, okay? Sorry, that was last week. And we just couldn't get to it. So we're going to do that tonight, and we'll get into the booklet and the checklist for the booklet. By the way, just so you know, you definitely want to be on next week. Next week is going to be on Thursday the 12th, okay? And we have every month we do a guest speaker. The other 3 weeks we do content. You and I work together on these webinars, but once a month we bring in a guest. So this month is going to be next Thursday the 12th, and Ryan Snow, who is a CEO for one of the Keller Williams market centers up in the Boston, Massachusetts area, is going to be on. And the reason I invited him is not only do I know him personally, he came to one of our mastermind events a couple of years ago, and I did teach at his office twice recently, in fact, this last month. Some of you may be on the call now, actually. But he helped Hal Elrod write the book Miracle Mornings. If many of you have read that book, Hal is not an agent. He's in our mastermind group, and it's a New York Times bestseller. He's written a lot of other versions of that, one of them being Miracle Mornings for Salespeople. Well, Ryan he co-authored that book. So Ryan's going to be on next week. He's one of our own guys. And he's also writing another book coming up with Hal, and I'm going to have him talk about that. A lot of content in there for people trying to make it from where they are now to where they want to be. Basically expanding your field of vision and achieving great results. So you definitely want to be part of that. So make sure you're on next week. For everybody, one more thing. This is live. It is being recorded, and the next day you'll get the recording. So some of you, after the fact, of course, will be watching this in recorded mode. But regardless, always check the email from Beverly. Please read it thoroughly because she provides a lot of updates, scheduling in there, system changes, content changes. It's the way she keeps up with everybody on a regular basis. And it really helps her a lot if you keep up with the emails here. So in any case, enough said, let's go ahead and jump into the first thing tonight, which is Julio's questions. Okay, so first thing is Julio's asking, why do we take the last 90 days for area analysis of sold units? What he's referring to is what we call the area report, or the school report. So I've got it up here, a version of it from another area, the Phoenix area, I'll bring up in a second. But I want to finish this question. Okay, he says, I usually calculate absorption rate by looking at the last full month. Example, total presently for sale divided by last month's total sales equals months of inventory. What is better and why? So valid question. So the area report, we call it the area report in Canada, and in the States we call it the school report. The answer is we always recommend starting off with a 90-day interval, just because one size never fits all. So if you're like in the San Francisco Bay Area, We would probably make that much shorter, maybe 30 days, in fact, okay? The reason we chose 90 days is for the most parts of North America, 90 days will allow you to capture a broader spectrum of data, okay? So if you think about it, the active part of the report, here I'll just bring this up so you can see what I'm talking about, okay? This is for Maricopa County out in a Phoenix area, okay? There's 3 school districts. You can see one of them is very rural, okay? Way out here, there's not a lot of people there, right? Or properties. Next one's, got a lot of people, but look, it's not really all that active. But then look at this one. Washington Elementary is fewer people than Wickenburg Unified, as far as housing. But look at the activity level. That's an active area. But here's what's interesting. It's not just like everybody's leaving, and it's also not like everybody's moving in. It's got both. It's got supply, active, and demand, sold. And this report, by the way, also covers November, December, January, February, March, April. In other words, this is a 6-month spread. So Julio, to answer your question, nothing wrong with doing it monthly. It does make more work for you, and you got to track all that. Although you get to do monthly trends, you can determine the trend on a monthly basis. We just discovered that doing it every quarter gives us the information we need, which is the actual raw data, and helps us determine the trends, okay, without having to do so much work. And the fact is, we capture a broader spectrum of data by doing it every 90 days versus every 30 days. So that's really the answer to your question. And by the way, since we got it up here, guys, you can see the sweet spot here is absolutely between 150 and 250,000. Look at that active range. 260 homes actively listed, 240 in the next price bracket. And look at the solds. It's not that the people are selling, people are also buying, okay? I mean, even the first category, 100 and 150,000, 4 times as many people are buying in a 90-day period than are selling, all right? And oh, by the way, the active is as of that day, the day you run the report. Sold is what goes back over the either 90 or whatever your days is that you're running it, your frequency, okay? But you're always looking for a sweet spot where you've got more solds than you have actives in a 90-day period, okay? And roughly 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, even 3 to 1 is probably the sweet spot. But I just want to answer Julio's question that we have other recordings of this where we go into this in great detail. You can find them in the silver level, the membership section on the My Investment Services website. You'll have recordings of all the webinars we've done the last few years. Many of them discuss this very report, okay? So in any case, let's go back to Julio's questions. The second one is this. Why target only areas where you find lots of rental instead of targeting everything, in parentheses, ensuring we don't miss anything? What he's talking about, guys, is in Canada, we use Canada Post to determine the areas where there's more multi-units, more rentals, because we can search by types and classes of properties. We can do that in the States too. In Canada, just the systems in Canada are typically a little more sophisticated than those in the States. In the States, though, there's typically more data, so it's sort of one balances out the other. But in any case, to answer Julio's question, the reason is if you look at housing data for your area, and you look at also planning commission data, which typically comes from your census system. So in Canada, it's Stats Canada. In the States, it's uscensus.gov. They give you percentages of ownership and percentages of rentership. So what Julio's insinuating here, which is a very accurate statement, is if we can target the rental building that is located in a highly residential area, it would rent very well, and this would attract the potential investors. Well, that may be true. It's just not very practical. In other words, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. In fact, the area I live out in London, Ontario, it's growing rapidly, and on the outskirts of town, you don't just find housing developments, you find high-end luxury apartment buildings, and I actually live in one of them, okay? But the fact is it's going to change over time. And the other fact is the only people that can afford those are the people who are already doing well in the business, all right? Like the builders are generally building them, Julio, and owning them. It's not people like you and I. For you and I to try to buy a property like that, and cash flow is going to be nearly impossible. So when we're buying rentals, we like to go to areas, and I'll give you the actual ratio, guys, so please write this down. The sweet spot for areas to buy rentals are those that are occupied between 1/3 and 2/3 tenants. In other words, the rentership is between, the area is lived in somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 renters, okay? If you think about it, what that means is, by contrast, if the area is less than 1/3 renter, it means it's greater than 2/3 owner occupant. Well, that will be a great area for flipping homes, okay? Now, if you think about it long term, sure, the renters want to rent there. Any renter would want to rent in an area that has a high ownership, because it's generally going to be a better area, well kept, landscaping, the whole 9 yards, okay? Now, think about the owners that live there in those areas. Do the owners of those properties, do they want renters coming in? So give me some feedback, or give me some shout outs. I want to get your guys your feedback on this. I want to get your brains thinking and build up your instinct on this stuff, okay? So the question is I just basically looked at Julio's question and asked the reverse question too, which is, I know renters would love to rent in an area that's very nice and it's high ownership occupied because it's better kept and all that. But think about the owners. Do the owners want those renters being there? Well, the answer is typically no, because what happens is, over time, the higher the percentage rentership, all of a sudden you'll see less money being put into landscaping and things like that. It's just a natural consequence of the business. I know all the rentals I own, I'm certainly not planning elaborate flower beds and water gardens and things like that. They don't make money for me. Okay, I'm gonna make improvements on my rentals that bring in cash flow. So if you think about the full spectrum of the business, you'll really get a better idea of what areas to be buying rentals in. So if you buy rentals in an area that's between 1/3 and 2/3 renter occupied, they're generally pretty stable rental areas. They're not the high end or not the low end. They're in that spot that's like, it's like equilibrium, it's stable, and it appreciates, the rents go up, all kinds of things that we want to have when we own rentals, okay? So hopefully I answered the question there, Julio, for you thoroughly enough. But let me check for questions, guys, before we go on this subject or any other, because I'm getting ready to get into the booklet now and the checklist that goes with the booklet. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in, guys, and we'll get to them. In the meantime, I'll bring up the booklet. All right, now, everybody please get out your pens and or pencils and get ready to take some notes here. I'm going to go through this with you, and I'm going to describe it to you from the position of how it's built, and then we'll go into how you use it, and at the end I'll give you the checklist that you can use. And by the way, all of this is on the silver level, the membership section of the My Investment Services website. And what you do is you log in and go all the way down to the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, My Investment Services. So for all the new folks, if you're just getting started, you want to log in to My Investment Services, click on here, members area. So I'll give you a second to digest this and click on that. Okay, go right here where it says members, click to log into silver level. So you click on that, and it takes you to a login screen, and your username and your password, like mine's pre-filled, but essentially if you have to remember it at least the first time, and you log in. Okay, and let's go down to the bottom. By the way, real quick, for the new folks, if you haven't built your profile yet, absolutely build your profile, guys. We're bringing on more and more investors every single month, and they're going to be looking for you. And if you're not out here, they can't find you. So you just log in here and follow the instructions. Here's a video on how you actually set up a profile on the community site. Okay. Also, it's a great way to network with other investor agents. Okay, that's the newsletter. Excuse me. Now here we get into the recorded webinars, and there's bunches and bunches and bunches out there on every subject you could possibly imagine related to real estate investing and brokerage, that's associated with investing. These are expert interviews we've done. Okay, these are books you can get. By the way, if you're on here, that means you're a member, okay? And you don't just get these free ebooks, you also get all of these books for free. These are the 5 I've written. I'm actually writing the 5th one now, and that's going to be coming out by the end of the year. It's on terms, how do you buy properties with terms, and do you use creative financing, things like that. So I know, Billy, that might appeal to you. Once I get the draft out, guys, I always send it to all the students to get your feedback on it. So look for that in the next probably month or 2, okay? But by Christmas, we'll have it out, and everybody's going to get it, of course, for free if you're on the Silver Level membership site. Okay, in any case, back to the subject. You scan down here. Here's the booklet. You literally can click on it and download it. Here, I'll just click on it. All right, you see the download right there, right? And you bring that up, and you've got your booklet, okay? Let's see, that's on there. There's all kinds of stuff out here, but I want to show you something else. So for especially the newer folks from Canada, if you click on here, let me just make sure, hang on one second. Yeah, let's click on here. This is important free resources that gather data on people and places. And if you look here, some of these are for the US and some of these are for Canada, okay? Canadianbusiness.com, MAA.ca, that's the assessment link, so you can find the assessment on all the properties, right? You know how we pay taxes on our properties, right? Biz Journals is a great way to find contact information for everybody in every industry. There's one that's not on here. So Paul, remember this. Remember a Geo warehouse. We brought it up in your market center when I was there the other week, okay? But in any case, you can also look at BRB publications if you're in the States, and you get everything out there, all the county sites, public records, the whole 9 yards. Just amazing, amazing surface. NR Canada, this is your geomatics. You can get property information on this too, by the way, in Canada. That's one of them. So let me reduce that, and we actually added another one, I think the other week. Here's another one. So for all the folks in Canada, check this out. This is another set of links. Okay, of course, Canada Post, Stats Canada, property data from your tax records, propertyline.ca, foreclosures, court records, postal code targeting. This is how we do targeted mailings. So if you're in Canada, just go to the Silver Level membership section, go to the bottom and grab this file and download it, okay? All right, so let me get out of here because I want to get back to what we came onto this webinar to do. So let's go into the booklet, right? First things first, you always start off with this phrase, where the smart money is, okay? Really important, just copy it, just clone this. This is in Word format, you just use it on your own. I just spoke at an event for one of our students up near Hamilton in Ancaster last week, and she did the booklet and did a workshop and invited people to the workshop using the booklet, and she had 20, she's now got 20 investors, one event. So Paul, this is speaking to you, buddy, and Eli too, if he's able to do this. But awesome technique, particularly in your area. So in any case, give him a picture of your area, and in here you would put in your area, investing in, Los Angeles, Boston, wherever you are, Vermont. I mean, Michael's from Vermont. We've got plenty of people here from New Hampshire, my gosh, and of course Montreal, Ontario. Also give them your broker's name, if you're your agent, that is, okay, and your contact information. Now, if you're not a realtor, you don't have to, there's not much yet to disclose, but if you're a realtor, even if you're a realtor using this from the position of being an investor, if you're using this for your own purposes to invest and find money, you still need to disclose that you're a realtor, okay? Don't ever assume that you don't have to disclose you're a realtor just because you're not using your realtor license at the moment. You have to disclose that. If somebody files a complaint later on in a transaction because they find out you're a realtor and you didn't disclose it, they're going to fine you. I mean, there's absolutely no questions about it. So regardless, this is how you build your cover page. And I'm not going to go into great detail because you all have this on the website available to you, all right? I'm just giving you the structure. So in any case, then you have what we call the introductory letter. I think this is one of my original ones. I think it's quite frankly a little dated, and it's probably a little bit too long. And I've seen a lot of other versions out there that work very well. But just remember this, WIIFM, what's in it for me? Not me, Gary, personally. But think about it in terms of the recipient. What's in it for them? What do they want? Well, they want to invest. You're approaching people who are interested in investing or potentially interested in investing. So say something about the area, the percentage of people that rent, for example, okay? I know, for example, in Hollywood, West Hollywood, 82% of the residents rent, right? I was just there back in March or April, I forget. But in any case, so and if you're in New York City, Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, it's typically about 70% of the people rent, okay? So mention that, because you basically want to do this, and I'm going to slow this down so you can absorb this. You want to enter into the conversation that's going on inside the reader's mind, okay? If you're using this correctly and you're approaching people who are more highly likely to want to invest, which are your business owners, they're entrepreneurial, oftentimes they're professional too, okay? If they're already thinking about investing, saying something like, did you know that 82% of our residents rent, is going to speak to them, and it's going to draw them in to want to read more. So that's what I'm getting at. Just remember that. Enter into the conversation that's already going on inside their mind. And you do that by giving pertinent facts about your area relative to real estate investing. That's the key point I want to make on this page, okay? All right, so that's introductory letter. That's number 2. And of course, provide all your contact information. Now, I put in a table of contents. You don't have to do that if you want to, but quite frankly, this is my first draft years ago, and I wanted to make it as professional looking as possible. All right, number 3 is a story, S-T-O-R-Y, okay? And all we're doing is providing an example of an investment and describing it from end to end, from the initial purchase all the way to the final sale and everything in between. So in this example, I give them the pro forma. First, a little bit of a technical description. What do we mean by NOI? What do we mean by cash on cash return, cap rate, debt service, the terms like that some people might not know what they mean. I do that right out of the gate. Then I give them the pro forma on the initial purchase. You can see what I actually paid for this property and all the data that was associated with it when I bought it. Then I give the pro forma on when I sold it, okay? So I give them the before and after snapshot of the actual numbers, purchase and eventual sale, which was probably 10 or 11 years later. And then I give them a summary, okay? I give them a summary of the transaction in plain English. So, and also remember this, guys, all of you have the right to use this. You can copy this and use it as your own. You purchased that right when you got into the program. You just put your name on it, okay? Or you can provide your own example, okay? And I would give them everything in between, right? I give them all kinds of stuff. Basically give them an example of what it's like to invest, okay? So that's number 3, story, right? And the number 4 is we're just providing samples of inventory, okay? So I'll just blast through this a lot more quickly. Hopefully this will work here. Number 4 is inventory, just samples of properties from your area. Whether you're an investor looking for funding or you're an agent looking for investors, it's the same information. Could be active, could be pending, could be sold. You're just providing examples. The purpose of the booklet is not to sell properties. The purpose of the booklet is to generate a relationship, okay? So in any case, just provide samples of properties. Some are active, some are under contract, some are sold, okay? Samples of properties. And then once you've provided samples of properties, I would provide some type of a tool, okay? This is like an Excel, it's an Excel spreadsheet that gives you the income, the rents, by the way, and the expenses on these properties, right? I just broke it down so anybody reading this could see the actual return on these properties, okay? And it says it right here, expense breakdown by property, income expense breakdown. So they can see a tool that they have available to them. So now what we've done is we've done this. We're sending this booklet to specific people, which I'll go over here in a minute. We're not just telling them what they can do and how we can help them, all right? We're actually demonstrating with actual facts and information. We're giving them an example. We're giving them information. We're giving them tools. We're giving them actual inventory that they can look at. Okay, so when they're looking at this and they respond, they're more highly qualified. We don't want to deal with the tire kickers and the well wishers. We want to deal with people who are action takers. Okay, and the fact is, the people that respond to this are action takers, and they've already, to a degree, pre-qualified themselves. All right. Not financially speaking. We pre-select them to be already financially, at least we believe, financially able to do this. Later on, we'll get them qualified. But for right now, we just want to get their heads in the game. So when people respond to this, based on facts and information, between timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, and ability, they've clearly demonstrated motivation and willingness and possibly timing, right? So in any case, number 5, give them a tool. All right, and at the end, I kind of wrap things up, and I'll give them some testimonials here from some other clients, and wrap things up at the end with my contact information. Okay. In any case, all right, that's the basic structure of the booklet. You all have access to this online, the actual Word document. Just clone it. There's other production versions we have. Every week people are sending us production versions of what they're using. We can share those too. But let me just check for questions before we go any further, okay? Let's see. Let's go back here to Miho. Hey, Miho. I'm glad you're back on board again. Hey, Miho, I can't remember, did you schedule a strategy call? I think Beverly gave you the link. But in any case, let's just look at your question here. For the booklet, how do you find expense? Investors ask me NOI. Most of the listing agents don't know what expenses are on the properties. Well, Miho, one of the things we do is we really don't rely too much on the MLS going forward. I'll do another webinar where we spend time focusing on techniques to how you actually locate inventory. These are the same techniques we use as investors to find our own investment properties. Okay, because most realtors weren't able to really provide a lot. They just would go to the MLS. And we want to get you out of that mindset. We want to get you in the mindset of using additional tools to find inventory. And we'll do that on another webinar. But for the most part, when we do locate owners of investment properties who indicate that they would like to sell, we always tell them we've got to have data. We've got to have the rent rolls. We've got to have P&L statements, and preferably the Schedule E from their tax returns on those properties. They definitely have that, Miho. So if you ever have an agent tell you, I don't have that data, the agent doesn't know what the heck they're doing, and they shouldn't be dealing with investment properties. I never ever took a listing. In fact, if you look at my listings, and I give a lot of examples of them, I always provide the income expense data. And nowadays on the MLS systems, you actually have the ability to click on a link on an attachment to get the data that the owner provides. But I would always get that. And then if they don't have it, what I would say is put it in writing. Please gather preliminary financials from the owner so that my investor can look, because no investor worth their salt is going to look at a property, like physically view a property, before even having financials. They're just not going to do it. It's just a waste of time. They could go look at a property and fall in love with it, or maybe think it's a great property, and they get the financials and realize the thing doesn't work. Real investors don't do that. Real investors ask for the preliminary data first to see if they even want to spend time on it. And other investors know this. Real investors know this. So I always put it in writing if they don't have it already, and tell them this is what we're asking for before we go physically view the property. All right? They're going to need to provide it anyways. As soon as somebody puts a property under contract, they've got to provide that. They might as well provide it to the listing agent right up front. So they're going forward, when it goes in a contract, the listing agent can provide it. The owners at that point done their job. They only have to do it once, okay? So if you get stuck on that, Miho, just shoot me a message and I'll help you out, okay? Okay, Paul Sheehan says yes with explanation. Oh, that's to the to the combo workshop and booklet. So Paul, definitely set up a strategy call. Let's get you up and running. Okay, so this is Jeff Willems. Jeff is asking, okay, question on the properties that you put in the booklet, for example, at the back. How many would properties you only use samples and not current ones on the market? No, that's an old version, Jeff. So every month you use this booklet, Jeff, you want to change it out in the inventory. You want to put in current inventory. Not always active, by the way. Remember, if you only put active in there, some investors are going to think you're only in it to just sell something. I mean, we are. If you're an agent, you are, right? But don't crank out the booklet that way. Put the booklet out there with a sampling of active, a sampling of sold, and a sampling of under contract. It does a couple things. It gives them a clearer picture of what's actually happening in the marketplace. They can see not only what actually sold, and so they can see the average sale price to list price. They can see what is active, of course. That's an important thing. But they also see what's going under contract. What kinds of properties are going under contract? So you want to give them all three so that they really know that you have their best interests in mind. Okay. Now, if you're an investor using this booklet, guys, and you're looking to attract funding, same thing. You want to show them what's not only what's available, but what's possible. Here's what's actually selling, so they can see stuff's actually working. That's why we provide all three. And every month you put this booklet out, you change out the inventory. Good question, Jeff, and thank you for raising the question. Okay, this is Miho. Miho says, okay, yes, my investors ask off market. I have lots of questions on a strategy call I will schedule. I am organizing my questions. Well, I can't wait to, Miho, I can't, the good news is I'm coming back to Southern California, and I'd love to see you again, and all of you guys. Cedric, I mean, there's a bunch of you out there, so I think we should get together and go out and grab a bite to eat or something, you know, or better yet, do a workshop, and I'll come speak at your workshop. I just did that for an agent named Diane up in, well, Paul probably knows her, up in Hamilton, Canada. So in any case, I do that probably an average of once a month. Okay, this is Miho. All right, you are totally right. My investors ask LMP. Most of the agents don't have it or ask LOI. I will request another webinar how to gather info. Thank you, Gary. You're very welcome, Miho. Thank you for bringing up the questions, and I look forward to guiding you through the process. So, okay, let's do this, guys. I want to make sure we get all this in. I'm going to go to the checklist. Okay, let's go over that, and then we'll have time for more questions. So let's look at the checklist. All right, first things first. Before you ever execute any marketing campaign, you always want to determine what are your goals, what are your objectives. So, for example, I know Billy's looking for expanding his rental portfolio. And there's a lot of ways to get the money. We generally don't want you to do hard money loans and be really hyper extended on your asset liability side. We would love you to be no more than 2/3 leveraged. However, when you're actively growing a portfolio, I used to leverage up to 80%. Okay, I had people tell me, lenders even said, hey, we'll let you go up to 90%. I'm like, no thank you, because if disaster strikes, the people that are leveraged at 90%, they're the ones that lose their property, okay? The people that have a decent equity position, and by the way, the better your equity position, by correlation, you also generally have a better cash flow position. So you're more able to withstand the storms that occur. That just happens, guys, in life. I mean, I'm going to be 55 years old here in a couple of months, and I still think I've got a long ways to go. However, I've been around the block a few times, and I can tell you, in spite of our best plans and our best intentions, stuff's going to happen. I mean, my gosh, people get sick, people lose jobs, people get divorced, just stuff happens. And when you're in a precarious situation, when you're literally walking the tightrope on debt, you can find yourself in deep trouble and unable to pull yourself out. Okay, so I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you, have one eye on today and one eye on tomorrow. Okay, and part of it is determine your goals. What is it you're looking for with this? How much money do you want? How many investors do you want? Whatever it is, and write that down. Okay. The next thing is I would get very niche specific or niche specific depending on where you're from. Okay. Focus on a particular group of people that you can relate to. This is really, really important here. It's called niche marketing. And if you ever heard the old saying, the riches are in the niches, boy, is it true. When you niche it down and you speak to a specific group of people with a common interest, then you can use language patterns and keywords that resonate with that group. You follow what I'm saying? So instead of you trying to do a general purpose broadcast mailing where you're trying to be all things to all people, you usually find out you end up being like nothing to anybody. Okay, when you speak to a specific group of people using their language and their terms and their culture and all of that, they're going to turn their heads and look at you because you're actually speaking their language. Okay, so focus on a niche group, right? And we give you the groups, by the way, in the classes. I mean, my gosh, they're typically, but not always, professionals, typically business owners or some combination thereof, either one or the other or both. But sometimes they're teachers, sometimes they're firemen, sometimes they're policemen. They're groups of people that make really good investors. In fact, a lot of policemen, pilots end up getting their realtor's license because they're entrepreneurial and they want to generate additional streams of income. What I'm getting at is focus on a niche group. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is copy this template here that we provide to you. All right, and you need to build your booklet, by the way, to appeal to either flippers or landlords who are accumulating rentals or want to invest in rentals versus flips. By the way, we know by niche group what their tendencies are. For example, chiropractors and dentists tend to lean towards rentals. Teachers tend to lean towards flips. And all this is in your material, by the way. So if you're looking to work with chiropractors, then you would build a booklet that has more rentals in it. If you're looking to appeal to teachers or firemen, build a booklet that has more flip samples in it. Okay. Now let me do this. Let me just make sure that's flippers and rentals right there. Okay. By the way, if you're doing one for flippers, always provide a before listing and an after listing. The before listing is when the example property you're using was first purchased. The after listing is once it's been remodeled and put back on the market. Okay. And then what I would do personally, you can write this down if you want, I would look for examples of flips where the same agent was on the buy side on the initial purchase and on the sell side on the eventual sale. In other words, they're probably working with the investor. So they helped them buy it and then they got the listing when the investor went to sell it. And I call them up. I'd say, hey, that looked like a pretty good flip. What did your investor do to make it go so well? And they'll tell you, new countertops, new kitchen door and drawer fronts, new tile in the back, whatever it is. Now you've got your story, okay? So it's kind of important if you're building a booklet for flippers. All right, now let me do a quick pause here and check for questions, as I think I saw a few of them come in. Let's see. This is from Billy. Oh, Billy, good news. We've been talking about Jacksonville. I'm right now working with she is an entrepreneur. She has a business in Chicago, and she's working with the brokerages in Jacksonville. And she's going to make an introduction for me because I'm supposed to go down there in January. So we're now going to have people, Billy, that we can have you sync up with in the Jacksonville area, and we'll have everything in place. You know, brokerage, property management. I mean, not me personally, but we'll know who the go-to people are. Okay, we on a shadow of a doubt. So here's Billy's question, guys. Okay, is anyone in the group an investor agent in Cleveland or Jacksonville? Actually, I think I just answered when you're. So I was I was anticipating where you were going, Billy. Actually, I wasn't. It's just lucky draw there. But in Cleveland, yes. We have. So, Billy, if you could send me an email, um, or Beverly, send it directly to Beverly asking who do we have in the Cleveland area. She'll send you all the people there who've been through the program in Cleveland, the Investor Agent Program. Some of them may be on the community site, but I don't think they are because we didn't build that. I haven't been back to Cleveland since we built that community site, so they're probably not on there actually. So Beverly will have to give that to you. But yes, we do have people out there. In fact, I know one really good investor out there named Rob Gillespie. In fact, I just sent him a text the other day. Okay, this is Paul. Hey, Paul. Paul Sheehan is saying, let's see here. Hi, Gary. There are about 35 municipalities, etc., and then that many and more communities. You know, Danforth Village. By the way, I don't know if I told you this, Paul. I lived in the Danforth last summer, summer of 2016. Let's see, Eastwick, etc. Am I or the office to do area reports for all of this? Yeah, I did send that in after I taught your class, Paul, to the office. I sent it to actually Jamie Wagg. She's your general manager. I don't think I had the office staff's email account. But Jamie has that, and also the team leader at the other market center, your sister market center, not the you're at the urban market center. It was the one. What was that street address? Hang on one second. Shoot, I'm trying to remember what was the street address. It's probably only 10 minutes from you. Oh, Argentina Road. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Argentina Road. It was the day after. Let's see. Let me go back to my notes here. I'll figure it out here in 1 second. Okay, you're King Street. Oh, here it is, the Duncan Mill Road office. So, Paul, the Duncan Road office, they also have it, and there's about 7 people in the group there in the training program that you should definitely sync up with. So, Beverly will give her their names and numbers. Just email her, and she'll give her their names and numbers, and let's see who's already built that report. Sometimes you got to build it yourself, and but we recommend the market centers do it for you. Okay. So Billy's saying, okay, awesome, hook me up. Well, you know we will definitely. Paul, yeah, Duncan Mill, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go back here, guys. I want to go complete the checklist here, make sure we get everything in before we run out of time here. So hang on 1 second. I can scroll down. So we got through the who you build it for and the version that you build for those particular people. Okay. Also, obviously, edit the introductory letter so it reflects you. I mean, oops, sorry, that's a misspelling there. So the introductory letter should reflect you and your niche group, okay? So you want to make sure you write this, although please write this down, guys. One of the biggest lessons you can learn when writing copy is this. Always write as if you're speaking directly to the person, okay? So if I'm writing this introductory letter in this booklet and I'm attracting people like Paul who plays soccer, all right, I'm going to write it as if I'm speaking directly to Paul. I have in my mind, in my vision, the avatar, the person that I'm approaching. Even though I'm sending it out to 30 of these people, they're all going to be soccer players. So I'm speaking to each one, and each one, by the way, is the salutation is name specific. Okay, very, very specific, very, very direct. And when you write that way, you have much higher response rates. When you write as if you're speaking to a big group of people, it comes out that way, and people sense it, and people are like, okay, this is another mass mailing thing, and poof, it goes in the garbage. But when you write as if you're writing to that specific person, direct, that's how you get response rates. Okay, the article or the story. Again, you either want to edit that to make it your own, change my name to your name and my picture to your picture, or just get a local example. Okay. Also, be sure to use your own testimonials. We've had students send the booklets out and leave my testimonials in there that actually refer to me. And they would say somebody called up and accused them of being fraudulent because the testimonial said something about Gary, and Jane was sending the booklet out. I know it sounds humorous, but it's happened. So please be careful of that. Okay. Now, in order to determine who you're going to send it to, Okay, you can use the big book of lists, which comes from bizjournals.com. You can use your yellow pages. All right, you can go online, quite frankly, and Google, you know, chiropractors, dentists, people in the medical field, like doctors. I wouldn't send it to attorneys. You can try it if you want. We just never had much success with that. But accountants might work. You can send it to accountants, okay? Policemen, another great example. Firemen, teachers, military folks, definitely pilots, okay? And by the way, a pilot is not going to be in the phone book under the business section, but they have associations and they have organizations. In fact, all of the professional groups have professional organizations and associations. They all do, in both of our countries, okay? So you can go on and Google, for example, the Canadian Association of Chiropractors, all right? Or the American Dental Association, okay? And you can actually, believe it or not, and many times you can join their organizations as a vendor, all right, a service provider, which means you can get their contact information and market to them directly, if you choose to do that. And we actually had a colleague years ago, I'll just tell you this briefly, he focused on chiropractors, and he got so good at it over the years, he was going to the annual event, that over time all the newer guys, all the newer chiropractors, they just assumed he was a chiropractor because he spoke their language, which is, remember I mentioned that earlier, that's so vitally important. When you speak their language, they're gonna treat you as if you're one of their own. All right, they're gonna feel like they know you, like you, and trust you. And actually, please write that down. Know you, like you, trust you. When you directly approach them using their language, you're going to achieve know you, like you, trust you much more quickly. And always be, candid and be authentic and genuine. If they assume you're a chiropractor and they bring something up, don't let them go on thinking that, because when they find out you're not, it could be trouble. So always tell them, hey, I'm actually not a chiropractor. However, I specialize working with chiropractors who want to invest in real estate. That's what I do. And they're gonna put their arm around you and say, well, son, let's go have a drink, okay? We always start off with a small group of booklets. We suggest 25 because on average you're getting 3 callbacks for every 25 booklets, okay? And you should do this every month for 12 months, unless or until they respond to you. Once they respond to you, now they're a prospect and you don't have to keep sending them the booklet, okay? Once you're comfortable with this technique, you could expand, okay, and include what we call related groups. So in other words, if you're working with a dentist, you can then add, once you've got this group stabilized and it kind of plateaus, you can then add pediatric dentists. And then later on you can add orthodontists. There's all kinds of what we call splinter groups, okay? Now let me just pause here for a second because we're getting close. I just want to check on questions. Let's see, okay, this is from Billy. Okay, Billy is asking, okay, off-topic questions. Do you have any Section 8 tenants? Billy, I got rid of them all. What happened is, in the early years, Section 8 was actually really good. More ownership rights. It was easier to raise rents. If the Section 8 tenant if they had to pay a portion of the rent, which in some cases they do, and he didn't pay it, as soon as we file for eviction, Section 8 would say, tenant, if you don't pay up, you're going to get booted out of the program, and they would pay up because they don't want to lose their subsidy. But what happened is, over the years, Section 8 started removing all of those ownership rights and leaning way, way, way more towards the tenant and taking away ownership rights, and they were also lowering the rates. It was the craziest thing I ever saw. On single-family homes, they lowered what you would get for a home in the way of rent. And their logic was, well, the tenant has to pay more utilities on a single-family home. We're like, that doesn't determine the market rate of rent, but that's the government's minds. That's how they think, So we got rid of them all. Let's see, what has your experience been? So Billy, if you read, go to the silver level membership section under My Investment Services, go down and grab 2 books, Rental Profits Without the Pain, and then Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. I think that's the one where I talk specifically about Section 8. And, quite frankly, I lay it all out there. I tell it like it is. I don't pull any punches. I just give it to you straight, and then you can make up your own mind. Okay, I have so Billy's asking or stating, I have an applicant that has a Section 8 voucher for $918 in rent. I'm marketing the property for $975, but might be nice to have the reliability of the government paying me. I mean, they're gonna dangle that carrot in front of you, Billy, but just remember, you're gonna read the fine print, because sometimes you may agree in principle to let a Section 8 tenant in your apartment, but Section 8 will not pay the rent yet until they come out and do the inspection. So you could tie up your property contractually to run into this Section 8 tenant, and the inspector might not come out for 30 days or 60 days, and then they take time to do their paperwork. And if they happen to find something wrong, you've got to remedy the situation before they release the unit for rental. In the meantime, 3 months could have gone by, and you're sitting there not making any money. So bear in mind, there's some real serious downsides to Section 8 tenants. Okay, next question is Miho. Miho's asking, do you send 25 booklets to same people every month for 12 months? Yes. So Miho, yes, I do. And then once they respond, you no longer have to send it to that person who's responded to you. Okay. But you definitely want to do it till they respond or 12 months has gone by. Okay. Now, so Miho, once you have that group of 25, all of a sudden the responses start to slow down, maybe a few months out, go ahead and add another group. Okay. Go ahead and add the second group. Okay. So this is Paul. Okay, Paul's asking, okay, I'm not going to be sending these out and organizing seminars until I have a better handle on the whole process of investing, or am I? Oh yeah, the workshop, Paul, don't do that yet. That's something, if you're like pretty new to the business or pretty new to investing, I definitely want you to do the booklet first. Just get the booklet up and running, get it out to these people, and then once you'll know when you're ready. It might be a month, it might be 2 months, I don't know, but you'll say, hey, Gary, okay, I'm ready, and then we'll work with you on strategy calls to do the workshop. Workshop generally takes a month to pull off. You got to actually find a location, schedule it, and you want to do that a month out, a month in advance, and then during that month, you and I will work on how you're going to promote it and the agenda you're going to go over in the workshop, okay? So it's very well defined. Okay, Miho says, I see, thank you. Are you very welcome, Miho? Okay, let me get back to the checklist. I think we're just about done. Yeah, number 14, okay, follow up with recipients. So let's say you're sending the booklet out and you're sending it to dentists, and you've got your initial wave of responses maybe after the second or third mailing, and then it starts to slow down. What I recommend is, if you're ever close by the recipient's offices, just stop in there. Poke your head in, say, hi, I'm Miho, I'm Paul, I'm Billy. I'm the guy that's been sending this booklet. What do you think? Now, often they'll give you sort of almost like a non-committal response, like, because number one, they're not expecting you, but it's not a door knock, because they know who you are, you sent the booklet out, all right? What you say is, hey, no problem. How about this? How about if I set you up on a search for specific properties just for you in your area? It doesn't cost anything. And generally, you get a more affirmative response here. And then you can ask for an appointment. So, okay, great. In order to do this correctly for you, I need just like 5 minutes of your time. How about if I call you at 9 o'clock tonight? And then you get their number. So that's how you handle that. Also, always interview every person that responds to you. Ask them, the 3 main questions are, what do you have in savings? Okay, and please write this down. What do you have in savings? All right, what is your credit score? Okay, and do you have an available line of credit? Those are the minimum. I mean, you want to, and by the way, you don't want to ask those questions right out of the gate. When you get them in an interview, remember, to them it's a conversation, to us it's an interview. Build rapport first. I should put that in there. Always build rapport first, because you want to determine if they're leaning more towards flips or leaning more towards rentals, okay? Then you can get into saying, okay, we've got that established. In order to move forward, we've got to know that you're qualified, because the other parties in these transactions, I'm putting my name on the line. I'm verifying that I've had you qualified. So can you please share with me this information? Then you ask those questions. In any case, the other thing I do too, guys, this is a real neat trick I learned early on. Once you've interviewed them at the end of the interview, and remember, don't call it an interview. To them, it's just a conversation. Ask them to email you with a recap of your conversation. The ones that do, you're in. Now they're going to work with you. They've actually showed commitment, they showed engagement, and they showed a willingness to take action. Okay. The ones that do not send you the email, I probably would not work with them. I used to try to, only to find out that they demonstrated to me with their lack of action the type of person they are. They're not action takers, and quite frankly, it is like pulling teeth. So only work with the people that actually do send you the email with a recap of your conversation. Okay, let's see. Now you've got a client, and now you take action, and you start either gathering capital from these folks to buy properties, or you're an agent and you're going to leverage your relationship with them to generate commissions and help them buy investment properties. Okay, awesome tool. I mean, over the years, this was always like, we called it the workhorse, because no matter what the economy was doing, no matter how busy we were, we could have an administrator, a virtual assistant, crank these things out, and all I would do was hand sign them. That's all it. Everything was specifically addressed. Now, we did hand address their envelopes, by the way. We always hand wrote the addresses on the outside of the envelope, and I hand signed every letter. We didn't handwrite the letter itself. We didn't have time for that. However, we do have students that handwrite the letter, and yes, it works very well. In fact, the response rate is higher on handwritten letters. So in any case, guys, that's pretty much the booklet. Okay, let me just double check one more time for questions. It looks like we're caught up, so that's good news. Okay, real quick recap, guys. Next week, Ryan Snow's on. He's a Wall Street Journal #1 ranked top 25 bestseller. He's writing another book, and he focuses on people in real estate and salespeople. So if you're looking, and by the way, if you're looking for funding, like using this booklet, you are by default a salesperson. Whether you're an agent or not, believe me, you're a salesperson. You got to sell them on why they should work with you and provide funding for you. Okay, so definitely pay attention to Ryan next week. And I'm not sure, but I got a pretty good feeling he may give you his an advanced copy of his next book for free. Don't quote me on that, because he hasn't told me that. But a lot of people will do that when you get the advanced copy. So you guys are getting in on the front edge. The early bird gets to worm. So in any case, guys, God bless you all. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the questions. Look for the recording tomorrow, and we will see you next week on the 12th. Okay, at the same time, 4 p.m. California, next Thursday the 12th. Oh, real quick on my schedule. I will be up in Canada this weekend for Thanksgiving. I'll be in Lauderdale, Florida on Monday, returning Tuesday to Philadelphia to teach for the rest of the week. The following week I'll be in Virginia, in Delaware, and the week after I'll be back in Philadelphia, and that kind of wraps up the month of October. So in any case, for those of you who are in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia area, and you're going to put on a workshop, please give me advance notice. I'll come out and I will lend you a hand. Okay, so thanks, guys. I hope you have a wonderful evening and an awesome rest of the week. God bless you and your families, and we will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.